The woman opened the door and was ready to run away from home, but she was terrified to find a strange black wall in the hallway outside the door. She couldn't tell the truth. Ollie thought it was a boyfriend's ghost, so he opened the curtain and found that the outside of the window was also blocked by a black wall. The two immediately checked the rest of the windows and found that all the windows were like this. Tim wanted to break the wall, but the wall was very solid. He hit the internal injury and didn't break it. The two were panicked and wanted to call for help, but they found that there was no signal in the room. At this time, they were completely isolated from the outside world. The two tried to find the signal everywhere, but when they got close to the wall, they found that the screen of the mobile phone began to shake, and the closer they got, the more the screen shook. It seems that there is a special magnetic field behind the wall. Ollie decided to use a physical attack. He picked up the electrode and went towards the black wall, but he found that the drill hit the wall and had no effect. Tim thought it was Ollie's static effect, so the two tried again together. But the drill burst through the wall and there was no scratch on the wall. Tim tried to drill a hole in the wall on one side, but the hole in the wall was blocked by something, so they tried the same thing on the other side. At this time, they realized that the whole building had been sealed by this strange wall. When the two were desperate, they heard the noise from the next door, so they hurried to the entrance of the wall next to the neighbor, but found that the wall could be opened. The neighbor next door did hear their cries, but the neighbor's answer made the two desperate again. It turned out that they also encountered the same situation. All the exits were sealed by the black wall, and there was no way to escape at all. Desperate breaths surrounded the entire apartment for a moment. A little thirsty, Tim decided to open the faucet and drink some water, but found that all the water in the room was completely cut off. If this goes on, they won't live here for long. At this time, Tim was furious and broke the phone in his hand, and then the whole room was in a dead end. They didn't understand that it was okay to come back last night, and a strange black wall appeared overnight. As Tim was thinking about how to get out, he accidentally noticed that there was a white dot on the black wall. He slowly approached it and saw that it was a small part of the phone that had just been smashed. I didn't expect the magnetic force of this black wall to be so strong. Smart Tim immediately thought of something, so he brought all kinds of metal utensils and objects and put them evenly on the black wall. After a few operations, they found that the magnetic field of the 4 positions on this wall was the strongest, and each of them was square. So Ollie concentrated all the other parts in these 4 positions, and then began to observe whether the black wall had changed. As expected, it didn't last a while, and the objects that were supposed to be forbidden began to shake. The next second, fortunately, Tim timely protected Ollie so that Ollie did not get hurt, but he was injured. After a simple treatment, Tim's injury was not serious. Although they found the characteristics of the black wall, they still couldn't find a way to escape, so they broke the walls of the neighbors next door and decided to think of a way to escape. At this time, Ollie thought of an air raid shelter downstairs. They could break through the floor all the way down so that they could escape from the tunnel connected to the air raid shelter. They could escape from the tunnel connected to the air raid shelter. They could escape from the tunnel connected to the air raid shelter. After a lot of effort, they successfully broke through the house downstairs, but there was no one in the dark underground. They shouted for a long time and there was no response. So Tim made the clothes connected to the rope and climbed down first to prevent the worst case scenario. Ollie handed the baseball bat to Tim, but there was a black shadow behind Tim at this time, and an old man walked out with a pistol. It turned out that since the black wall appeared, the old man hid his pistol in order to protect his granddaughter, and when he heard that Tim was going to break through his own ground and go down to the underground air raid shelter, the old man immediately alerted the old man. Fortunately, his granddaughter came out in time to stop him, so that the old man relaxed his vigilance and agreed to their actions. Maybe this way his granddaughter can escape, but when they continued to dig down, Tim accidentally found a micro camera in the smoke alarm from the roof. What did he think of immediately? In a hurry to let everyone check other corners, they found a lot of hidden cameras in various places. At this time, they suspected that the black wall was done by the landlord to trap them and monitor them. And one side of the old man's house is the landlord's house. They angrily smashed the landlord's wall and were going to find him. But they walked into the landlord's house and found that the landlord was dead in the house and his hands were cut neatly. But the cut arm was not found in the room. Everyone was scared. Only Tim calmly looked at the landlord's phone to find a clue. But through the photo in the phone, it can be seen that the landlord was also trying to escape from here. They had no choice but to continue digging down. After passing a few rooms, they came to a programmer's house, but when they saw their programmer, they were not surprised at all, but warmly welcomed their arrival. It seems that the appearance of the black wall made him not at all afraid. When they heard that they were going to escape from this black wall, the programmer not only laughed out loud, he said that this black wall was not to trap them, but to save their super high technology, because there was a virus with a high mortality rate outside the world. In order to protect the people, the government launched the emergency plan of this black wall. Although the programmers said that the happiness rate was extremely high, but they still said that they had to see it with their own eyes, so they began to continue to dig. Finally, the underground air raid shelter was found in the deepest part of the air raid shelter, and the iron gate of the subway tunnel was found, so they moved the old paper box and smashed the iron gate with an axe. But the scene in front of them shocked everyone. The iron gate was also blocked by the black wall behind it. They did not expect that the black wall could extend to the tunnel 10 meters underground. Malwin completely collapsed and grabbed the old man's gun against the black wall. It was a shot, but the strange thing was that the bullet hovered in the air 10 meters near the black wall and could could not continue to move forward. Tim immediately realized that something was wrong. Fortunately, everyone avoided the bullet, but the old man, who could react to it, was hit by the bullet and died on the spot. The granddaughter looked at the dead grandfather and cried bitterly, but it was too late. The atmosphere of despair once again engulfed the entire apartment. They thought they could not escape again. Just when everyone was in despair, Tim refused to admit defeat. He thought he saw a lot of pictures of the black wall in the landlord's hands, and maybe there were other clues in his room. So they went back to the landlord's room again to search for information carefully. But the careful Tim found that the landlord's room was one step shorter than theirs, which means that there must be a secret room in the landlord's room. Tim knocked on the wooden board in front of him and judged from the sound that there was absolutely hidden space behind the wooden board, and Ma Wen also found a code in the drawer. After pressing the door, a secret room will appear. It seems that this code is the key to the secret room. Smart Tim immediately blew all the flour from the kitchen to the code. As expected, the 4 numbers pressed by the landlord appeared. In this way, they only need to try 24 times to crack the code. In this way, they successfully opened the door to the secret room, and after walking in, Tim was surprised to find that there was a surveillance room here. The pervert landlord was watching all the residents, but in this case, it was a good thing for them because they could find the black wall through the video. When it was 6 o'clock in the morning, they finally found the time when the black wall appeared. But the strange thing was that the black wall was like falling from the sky, and it covered the whole door in an instant. And they accidentally found that there was a second person in the room of the programmer. Not long after he approached the door, the sun's light came from the corridor, which meant that the man had opened the black wall. But the next year, the programmer suddenly appeared to pull him down, and the man fell to the ground cruelly. The man who was strangled to death immediately, and everyone realized that maybe this programmer was a fake, and the one who died was the real programmer. Tim immediately took up his gun and came to the programmer's house, but he found that the fake programmer was fighting with Ma Wen, and his grandfather's granddaughter was also killed by him. Tim immediately fought with the fake programmer, but the fake programmer was very good at fighting, and he soon knocked Tim down on the ground. Fortunately, Ma Wen, who reacted, took action in time, and this knocked down the fake programmer on the ground. But they can't kill the fake programmer now because only he knows how to get out. So they tied the programmer up and forced him to escape. But the fake programmer's mouth was very strict, and he refused to reveal the code. He just kept saying that the black wall was just to protect everyone, and everyone had to find a new way. It was at this time that Xiaomei's cry was heard, and it turned out that he had a new discovery through the monitoring, that the real programmer had created a software on his phone before his death, which could be used to open the black wall. But after he was killed, the fake programmer immediately broke his phone. Fortunately, Tim is a computer master, and it is easy to repair such a broken phone. After a series of operations, the programmer's phone was repaired and found the software that could open the black wall. The software was scanned against the black wall. As expected, there were 4 lights on the 4 square shapes that were very strong in this scene. Every time you click on a light spot, the camera will emit a different level of flash. After Tim clicked down from top to bottom, the well-resistant black wall really reacted. Xiaomei couldn't help but touch the black wall with her hands. I thought I could get out of it, but I never thought that as soon as she reached her hand into the black wall, she gradually felt a little warmth. Then there seemed to be something outside the wall, but Xiaomei's face changed in the next second. She seemed to be held by something, and she couldn't pull out her own arm. Everyone rushed to help, but even so, the strong suction force still sucked Xiaomei into it little by little, and slowly half of her body was stuck in it. The black wall at the top of the next second began to solidify, and the black wall became solid again without a second's hesitation, until Xiaomei was pulled out, but only half of her body was pulled back. Ma Wen looked at the dead Xiaomei in pain. She collapsed and screamed. She couldn't stand the thought of her girlfriend dying in front of her, but the fake programmer who died at this time laughed loudly, laughing that this was the end of not listening to her. This directly angered Ma Wen, and directly sent the fake programmer back to his hometown. Then, after saying goodbye to Tim and Ollie, he also shot himself. In this way, Tim and Ollie were left in the whole building, and their last hope at this time was to find the correct order of these 4 buttons. Since it doesn't work from top to bottom, let's try from bottom to top. So Tim started trying again, but when Tim pressed the 3rd button, he was stopped by Ollie, because Ollie found the order of the flash. Different buttons have different frequency of flash. In this way, as long as you check the number of flashes when the programmer opens the door, you can press the correct order. Now the two have finally found the correct way to open the black wall. As expected, the black wall was finally opened by them, and they finally escaped. At this time, they knew that the whole city was surrounded by black walls. They only learned the truth when they turned on the radio. It turned out that all this was caused by a domestic defense company. This time, there was a big fire that caused a serious malfunction, which triggered a secret defense system, and all the programmers were trapped in the building and could not contact each other. Now there is only the way to escape from Tim and Ollie to open the black wall. This means that the weight of saving this city depends on them.